Hey, this is Matt from Alpha Analyst, and in this video, we're going to go over how to use SmartArt, WordArt, as well as text boxes in Microsoft Excel. SmartArt is a great way to be able to put together some pretty sophisticated diagrams that look amazing but are very easy to put together. WordArt is a great way to put together titles for things, and text boxes are very useful for a wide variety of purposes. All right, let's get started. So let's talk first about SmartArt. How do you use SmartArt? So let's go to the Insert menu. So we're going to go to Insert, and then we're going to come over to here where it says SmartArt. After you click on that, you'll see that this dialog box pops up. The first option says All, so you can click through and take a look at all of the available options. Instead of going through all of them, let's just look at some options that are typically used more frequently. Let's go to the Process section. So if you go to the Process section, there is a little option down here where it says Basic Chevron Process. Let's click OK. All right, so now we have an example of a chevron. So you have 1, 2, 3 chevrons. And what we can do here is we can change the text. So here we're going to say Step 1. Here we're going to change it to say Step 2. And then in this box, we're going to say Step 3. And then in addition to that, we can change the colors. So we can right click on the first one and change the fill to red. We can change the second one to green. And we can change the third one to blue. Okay, so now you have a 3-step process. And this is something that you could use to explain how things go from Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, and you could put whatever text you like in here. Let's say that you would like to make the icons a little bit larger or smaller. What you can do is you can first click on it. You want to make sure that you click on the entire piece of SmartArt and not one of the subcomponents. Okay, so click on the piece of SmartArt and you'll see that there are some circles around the edges of it. So we can use those to drag to make the SmartArt bigger or smaller. And if you notice, if you just change one aspect of it, it doesn't necessarily change. So for example, we're going to click on the SmartArt and then we're going to use these icons on the edge, these little circles, to be able to change the size. However, let's first talk about what happens if you try to make this one bigger. Do you see how nothing happens? So you can make this as big as you want, but it's not going to change anything. And that's because this particular piece of SmartArt is not limited by the height. It's limited instead by the width. So if you want to make this bigger, you would want the width to be bigger. So as you make the width bigger and bigger, you can see that the SmartArt becomes larger and larger. So if you do change a piece of SmartArt on the side and it doesn't get bigger, that's probably because it needs to be made larger by being wider. And let's say that instead of making it wider, you did want to make it larger. So how could you make this taller? Because if you just drag on this here, it doesn't seem to be getting any bigger. What you can do is you can actually click on the individual subcomponents and you can drag them and make them bigger. So as you can see, if you drag them to make them bigger, it doesn't really look very good. And that's probably why Microsoft Excel is kind of discouraging us from making it taller. And instead, Microsoft is trying to get us to make it wider. So that's an example of a basic chevron process to show how something goes from Step 1 to Step 2 to Step 3. Let's talk about another piece of SmartArt that gets used pretty frequently. Let's go to the Insert tab and we're going to click back on SmartArt. Okay, so from this dialog box, let's choose Relationship. So under Relationship, if you scroll down, you'll see that there's an option for a Venn diagram. It says Basic Venn. So once again, the way we got there was to go to the Insert tab and then SmartArt and then the Relationship menu. And now that we're here, we're going to click on the Basic Venn. So if you scroll down, you'll see Basic Venn. And you can click on the OK button to get it to show up. Okay, so this is a Venn diagram. So you can say this is one topic. You could say that's A, this is B, and this is C. And you can change the colors. So you can right click on one of these and say, let's make this one orange. Let's make this one purple. Let's make this one yellow. So here you have a basic Venn diagram. And if you're trying to illustrate how 3 different things fit together, Venn diagrams can be a great way of doing it. So so far we talked about using a process type of SmartArt as well as a Venn diagram relationship type of SmartArt. And there are many other options. If you go to the SmartArt menu, you can just click through here and see which ones might interest you. There really are a wide variety of options, and it's a great way to put together something that looks good, but also is relatively easy to put together. All right, now that we've covered SmartArt, let's get on to WordArt. So if you stay on the Insert menu, if you come over here to the right, you'll see there's a section that says WordArt. So for WordArt, you see that there are different options here. You can choose to have it be black, you can have a little shadow, you can have it be orange. Let's click on the orange one. So here we have some text. So the text is here. Let's say we want to type in Venn diagram. Okay, so we can drag that over there. And if we want to make changes to the way that the WordArt looks, we can highlight that, and then we can come over here to Drawing Tools. And once again, this is a context-sensitive menu. So if you click away from it, you'll see that the Drawing Tools disappears. But if you click on it, you'll see that the Drawing Tools reappears. So now that we have that selected and the Drawing Tools is appearing, we can come down here and we can actually put our mouse cursor over different options to see what it would look like if we used a different format. So if we want to see how the entire text would look if we change the format, we can come up here and put our mouse cursor over all of these different icons. And as you put your cursor over the icons, you'll notice that the text actually changes. So if you put your text over the one with a shadow, you can see what it looks like if it were to have a shadow. Also, on the Drawing Tools option menu, if you come over here, you can select a variety of different options for backgrounds. So here you can have a black background, and you can experiment with different options and see if you can come across something that interests you. So let's stick with the original one that we came up with. So WordArt used to be much more prevalent when Microsoft Office was relatively new, and I would say that right now SmartArt probably gets used more often than WordArt. But I would say text boxes, even though they're very simple, they actually get used very frequently. Text boxes are very useful and very, very easy to use. Let's talk about how we can add text boxes to the Microsoft Excel document that we have here. So once again, let's go back up to the Insert menu. Over here on the right, you'll see that there's an option that says Text Box. So let's click on that. And then to start creating the text box, we're just going to click anywhere we want. We can just click. And after we click, you'll see that there's a cursor. So let's type in some text. Let's type in process flow. Okay. So this text box, by default, it has a white background as compared to a clear background, which means if you put this on top of something else, you're not going to be able to see through it. But you can change that. So let's say that you want to change if it's transparent or not, or what the background looks like. So we can right click on that text box and choose Format Shape. That's the last option on the menu. So right click on the text box and choose Format Shape. Over here on the right, you'll see that there are different options. So if you come to the paint bucket, the first option, you can see that under the fill menu, if you change it to no fill, you can see that it's clear. So if I put this text box on top of something else, you can see that the background is clear. So that's what happens if you have no fill. If you want a solid fill, you can come over here and give it a color such as yellow. And when you do that, obviously you can't see through it because it has a color, but you can change the transparency. So this option right here allows you to change how transparent the icon is. So right now the text box has 0% transparency. If we change that to, let's say, 65%, you can still see most of the yellow, but if you move it on top of something, you can see the other item, to some extent. If you make the transparency 100%, you're basically making it clear. So if you want to change the transparency, that's how you do it. You right click on the text box, go to Format Shape, and then under the paint icon, you can change the transparency right here. Okay, let's change the fill color back to no fill. As far as the line, so you can also have a line that goes around your text box. So if you see now, there's a little bit of a line that goes around the text box so you can see where the text box is located. If we wanted to change that, we could right click on the text box and come down here to Format Shape. And then once again, under the paint bucket, we can come to Line. And over here, we can choose if we want to have no line. So if we select that, you can see that the line around the text box disappears. So you can't really see the outline of the text box. We could change it to a solid line. So we could say that we want it to be, let's say, a red line. We want it to be thicker. So the width allows you to make the line thicker or thinner. So you can see as I'm clicking the width to make it larger, you can see that the line around the text box gets larger and larger. Okay. You can also change the transparency here, similar to the fill that we went over just a little while ago. Here's another useful thing to do for the text boxes as you're changing them. You can change the dash type. So right now you can see it's a solid line. If you want that to be dotted, you can click this drop-down box and you can change it to a dotted line. So now that there's the dotted red border, I would say that this pops off the page a little bit better. And as you're editing text boxes, you can use the normal menu to edit the font. So you can simply highlight the font inside of the text box and then right click and you can choose all of the normal options. So you can make the text bold, you can make it centered, you can change the color of it, change the size. So you can use the same type of menu that you're typically used to. Okay, so in this video, we covered how to use SmartArt, such as these process flows and the Venn diagrams. We covered WordArt, such as this title page right here. We covered WordArt, such as this title right here. And we also covered text boxes and how to edit them. So after watching this video, I hope you have a much better understanding of how to use them. Thanks for watching.